that, the welcome everybody to tonight's 15 on November HLB meeting. And with that, we'll call.
John Aiken.
Here.
Amari Davis.
Here.
Robert Dutka is excused. Andrew Fackler.
Here.
Alex Foster is excused. Carmela Ham. Ray Hanley. Gerald Laporte.
Here.
Jen Lawrence. Here. Rebecca Meyer. Katie Myers is excused. Mark Turnbull.
Here.
Andrew Wenchel.
Here.
And Dick Woodruff.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. Thanks everybody for again. Let's start with the chair's opening remarks here. So effective September 1st, 2022, new state legislation now requires certain county appointed commissions, including HLRB, to have in-person forum to conduct its business. HLRB hearings are provided in a hybrid environment, both in-person and streamed online. Members of the public may attend and participate either virtually or in person. Members of the board and members of the public joining this evening for your public hearings. Remember, today's meeting is available to stream via the county website, Microsoft Teams link. There's also a dial-in option. Board members, presenters, or speakers losing their time to be here. Please reconnect us via phone. Your device muted and video turned off until you're called on to speak. The public speaker is not sponsoring items on the agenda. Pre-registration to speak online at this hearing was required. Speaker slips are available at the front of the room for those in person who wish to speak. I'll call you to speak after the presentation of the agenda. The meeting chat is active for participants who need technical assistance only. It should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or request for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. All voting action will be done by roll call tonight. And lastly, the public forum, today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the October minutes. Are there any questions or concerns about the October minutes? Hearing none, I move that we approve the October 2023 HLRB minutes. Second. This one.
Okay. Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Fackler.
Yes.
Mr. Hanley.
Yes.
Mr. Laporte.
Yes.
Ms. Lawrence. Yes. Mr. Turnbull.
Abstain.
Mr. Wenchel.
Yes.
And Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
All right. The next item up is the consent agenda. There are two items of consent. One at 2330 North Glenmore Street, and another one at 2737 23rd Street North. Anybody like to questions, like to pull either item off the consent agenda? Not is there a motion to approve?
Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Fackler.
Yes.
Mr. Hanley.
Yes.
Mr. Laporte.
Yes.
Ms. Lawrence. Yes. Mr. Turnbull.
Yes.
Mr. Wenchel.
Yes.
And Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you for coming in.
Hey.
It's exciting.
Try us again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which one was yours?
The windows.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good luck with those, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Great house. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you too.
So there are a couple of administrative COAs as well. I guess with that, we can move. This is the site plan mark review for Boston Station, CUMC.
Let me see. I don't see. We have Heather Crowell online. She is the consultant that worked on the marker and has been with us for the past other meetings. But they have done incentive changes, what you saw last time. we have a couple little edits that we'd like to suggest that we saw, but so far we think a lot of this is good enough. I don't need to say good enough. Sorry, that's never a ringing endorsement. We really like how this marker is looking, and we think it's they've taken a lot of our feedback from previous meetings, and it's just kind of, I think, up to any of the HLRB members if you have any extra things you'd like to suggest or any edits you would like to have us consider. Just that's kind of now to the HLRB members.
I think the format is vastly improved, and it's so much easier to read, and it's got, I think, the most important information and format that I think people will be able to see easily. So thank you for that.
I just wanted to echo that. This is wonderful. It looks great. It's very easy to read. And I know last month I had more than a few comments on it, so I really appreciate this. It's a very interesting marker.
Yeah, I concur. I think it's a great improvement. In fact, it's really good. I would make one small formatting recommendation, and that would be to reduce the size of the blue box of people known so you can expand the size of the pictures. People really like to see pictures like this, but you can't see the figures or very much about it. And I think if you reduce the size of the blue box, it would give you more room for the photographs and for the captions under the photographs, which really add color and flavor to this. But it's really outstanding, and I'm glad they took the maps off because they were nothing but confusing. Now, this is excellent.
I agree with the sentiments that have been expressed, including reducing the size of the, because I think the pictures are the most important part. I would have a couple little nits in the introductory paragraph. We say have held the graves of at least 6 members of the Ball family. I think since we have the 6 listed, we sort of don't need to say that. And also, I remember when we started on this project way back when we were at odds with some of the people on the church committee who said there are no graves there; these are just grave markers, and there's still some sort of seeds of that, and I think we overcame that, but there's still sort of seeds of that idea here, and I think this is one of them, So I would cross out the graves of at least 6 members. I would just say the graves of held the graves of members of the Ball family, and take out the comma. I don't think you need it. And since you have the 6 listed, we've already said that we're saying it twice. And then also at the bottom of the blue box, it says during construction of the new church in 1950 and possibly before, markers may have moved. I would add the word been before, because markers don't move, they are moved. So what did they do? Is that Halloween night that they?
They migrate.
Yeah. And I would cross out and the locations of burials if they remain. I would cross out the clause if they remain, because that raises a whole lot of questions. And why are you raising this issue? I mean, that we ultimately decided that it doesn't make any difference whether they were moved or not. This is the place that the grave markers were for many years, and we're putting them back. And if you want to get into that, you sort of have to tell a story we don't. I thought we decided not to tell here.
Good points.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
before
Michael.
we begin, continue, we do have a public speaker for this item that needs to be heard. Sorry.
Hi, Dr. Burns. Sorry, we didn't mean to forget you were here.
Hello?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Should I make my comment now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The proposed marker does not contain any photographs of the gravestones that the burial ground will contain. These are necessary as the applicant will surround the burial ground with a fence. The applicant has informed you during 2 meetings that it does not intend to unlock the fence's gate to allow the public to enter the burial ground. During your October meeting, staff contended that a site plan condition had placed the burial ground within a public easement, access easement. However, the county's attorney's office has recently informed staff that the site plan does not contain any such condition and no easement that affects the burial ground. This confirmed a statement that I made during the October meeting. The only outdoor public access easement that is near the burial ground contains the sidewalks next to North Stafford Street and Fairfax Drive. Both sidewalks are outside the fence. At your October meeting, you approved COA 2116, which allows the applicant to reinstall the graveyards of the positions that they occupied before the removal for product construction. Members of the public will therefore not be able to read the stone's inscriptions because stones will be too far from the fence. They were not visible before from the sidewalk, and they still won't be, not the inscriptions. The proposed marker states that Francis, spelled with an E, Dyer, a son of William Dyer, is interred in the burial ground. As they will not be able to read the headstone, members of the public will not be able to learn that this feminine name likely resulted from an engraver's error in the stone's pedestal. The pedestal states, "In memory of my husband, Francis," spelled with an E, Dyer. In contrast, the staff report for your October meeting states that Miss Dyer's husband bore the masculine name of Francis, spelled with an I. The Burial Ground Historic District designation form also spells his name with an I. So I have a discrepancy that a viewer can look at the pedestal and see that there was an error. Nobody will know this now unless you put a marker on a picture of it on the marker. Many visitors to the site will be more interested in reading the inscriptions on the 5 headstones than in seeing much of the material that the proposed marker presents, no matter how good you think it is. I therefore ask you to advise the applicant to revise the marker by replacing some of that material with photographs of the headstones, especially that of Miss Dyer's husband. Alternatively, your staff can ask the applicant to amend the site plan to allow the public to enter the burial ground upon request. If the applicant agrees, the marker will not need to contain any photographs of the headstones. In addition, the lower right-hand corner of the marker states that in 2017, Arlington County designated the Robert Ball Senior Family Burial Ground as local historic district. The marker contains a comma between the words Ball and the abbreviation for senior. However, the historic district official name lacks the comma. Please correct this error on the sign if you're going to put it in there. Thank you. And I've sent you some written material. The same thing. It says the same thing.
Thank you, Dr. Byrne. Does anybody have any questions about what Dr. Byrne stated?
I guess if you could maybe illuminate us on what the status is of the easement or for the public access, really will it be? Essentially, is that anything that we can sort of decide on or control here?
Good point. So, so the public access easement, I did tell the HLRB last month that they would be able to, the public would be able to go into the public burial ground, and be able to access it, walk around it, all that kind of stuff. And then I had a conversation with the county attorney the next day, getting clarification, and they told me that that was not correct. So I have received other information from our real estate division who briefly responded to a question that I had about what does the public access easement mean for the burial ground. And so given though that I did give this body the wrong information, it also is something that we don't have control over. We could ask the developers, could you go back and rethink the site plan condition, and they could say no, and then that could be it. Like, we could ask them that, but we don't have any authority to do any adjustment to the site plan condition since it's already been approved by the county board. I think if there was something that there was maybe, I don't even know where it would be appropriate or where it could be a reason for them to go back and make them change it. I really haven't seen that happen too often. But the public access easement is weird. I will state that. And part of that is because there was a lot of back and forth between staff at the last minute when they were developing these site plan conditions. And so it's written a little weird than usually how it's done with site plan conditions. But the public access easement is literally the fenced area. So we're saying the public can have access at the fenced area. And so by us saying they can go around it, at it, near it, it's that area that they can, I keep doing this motion, and it's because think of the weird fat T of this local historic district, and there's a fence around it. And that's the public access easement. That's the part that's weird about it.
Within the fenced area?
No,
Outside.
just outside, which is,
I assume the marker is outside.
the marker is outside.
And the access easement also is for the window.
Yes, there is another aspect that is focused on the Tiffany window, which is the inside of the building. And so there is entire different language about how that public access easement is.
How does that work? People in the building.
And
Okay.
when
Yeah,
there's
people
certain-
in the building,
certain hours.
Hours and days.
It's
I think that-
normal working hours, Monday through Friday.
Hi, Scott.
Hello,
Scott's-
sorry I'm late.
It's okay.
No, it's, I'm shooting from the hip, but the language is basically like normal business hours open to the public, Monday through Friday.
That's for the Tiffany window public access easement. Yes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect them to read similarly, because the reason why we insisted on that for the window is because you can't, the window is meant to be seen from the inside. Okay, so you need totally different language to affect that, okay, because, so.
Need the light.
Yeah, you need the light coming in from, and that's also why it's fine to limit it to the day, because that's when the stained glass window shows its best, is when you.
It's going to look beautiful.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
So I have two questions.
Yep.
Can you see from the edge, do we think you'll be able to see and bend over and read the markers from the fence? Will it be close enough to be able to look over and see those? I don't know that we've ever heard that you couldn't. And number two, if they're going to allow access to see the windows, would there be a way to put for the church to say, if you call this number in advance, if you wish to enter where the markers are and call this number in advance, you can request entry?
I mean, so it's a partnership between the church and the APA, which is the Affordable Housing Arlington Partnership. Thank you. Sorry. So it's, I mean, we could ask them, but there's nothing that we can do
Sure.
to force them. So I think it's up to them to decide how they want to manage that. But I can tell you right now, and Scott, you're probably, I don't know if you're saying the word what again when I say that, but the fact that it is up to them, and I could see them not wanting to do that because of liability, and I could see them not wanting to do that because they are also, that is meant to help protect the burial ground, and it's also an area that is not ADA compliant. So that there, again, puts them up into a lot of liability. So I think that I mean, if I was their property manager and if I was their land lawyer, I would say, you should tell the public no. I would say that, just because of that reason.
How big is the space again?
The space is 500, it's like 522 square feet.
How high is the fence?
You're asking, it's a good question. I don't know the
I think in the
exact,
drawings it was like this.
but it's kind of, I'd say it's about
30 inches.
3,
36.
I think it has to be a little bit higher than that so that it's not a tripping hazard. But it's not, I mean, but it's a stone fence, and then on top of that is going to be like a metal fence, like a post
Talking
metal
about the metal
fence.
fence, my impression is that it's easy to step over.
I think if somebody really wants to.
If they wanted to, yeah, I
If
mean, I'm
somebody
not
really wanted to.
encouraging that, but it's.
Yeah, it's not very high. Like I don't think it's
Yeah.
higher than 5 feet, maybe.
Well, I'm
But
5'3".
yeah, if somebody wanted to get
so
over it,
that's the
sure.
problem.
5 feet, well, that's,
That's pretty high.
That's pretty high.
I'd be surprised with that.
But,
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's over 5 feet. I think it's certainly under that.
but I think that we haven't looked at it close enough, I think, to really say how far away is the fence to the nearest marker. But I think I'm looking at it from my perspective. I felt that I would not have had an issue with being able to see it.
well, then the public access doesn't make any sense if you've got a 5-foot high fence and people can't
Yeah, I
see
don't
the
Well,
gravestone.
isn't it metal, isn't it an open metal, as I recall?
Yes.
Like raw, like.
So it's not a solid fence.
Right.
Yeah,
People don't need to be draped.
like I have a couple thoughts on this, like one on the thing, but I'll deal with the ground first. I don't think the public access is needed. I mean, I'm a Boston resident, so I pass this thing every day. You could barely see the stones before. You had to basically get up on the little stone ledge that already existed. So it really, to me, is just, all there is now is there's a fence that's reestablishing the status quo. You can see through, and some of those stones are a little worn anyway. I think the crucial thing is that we've actually saved the cemetery and the stones. That's the bigger issue. People don't need to walk. It's not big at all. I'd be amazed if it was even 500 square feet. It's tiny.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't think people need to necessarily be traipsing around.
Well, if you look at the picture on the marker, that is a pretty good description. I mean, I think the grass
Yeah.
probably needs to be good, but,
But it did look like that a lot.
oh,
Yeah.
I know.
Just so everybody knows, Michael was kind enough to pull up the plans and it's 48 inches high. But that is also, but we think that the stone is probably about a foot and then the rest of it is like a fence, a metal fence.
Yeah, so I
Like a
think,
cemetery fence.
I think it's the total including base
Yes.
for it is about that height.
Then I just did two quick things about the marker itself. First, I think most of Jerry's notes are perfect. I just had one question about the at least 6. I don't remember this. We started this so long ago, pre-COVID.
Yeah, we did.
Was there a question about if there were more than 6 in the burial ground?
Burial ground.
Yes.
Yes, because there was a stone that the church was storing inside the office.
But I thought
And that's affiliated, I think that was affiliated with one of the existing markers.
They said it was a footstone, not a headstone.
Footstone.
But we didn't know that until last month, when,
Right.
at least I didn't.
But the design guidelines for this does count that stone.
Yes.
So that's part of the 6.
Okay,
But a footstone wouldn't necessarily suggest.
another person.
Okay, so then I don't care about the at least. And I think this is great. This is what we need. And as someone who, my favorite bar is next to this church. So when I take people to the bar, I often, after the bar, because I'm just more talkative, we'll talk about this project. And they don't even get the idea that Boston's named after the balls until I mention this. So I think this is just what we needed. It's much better than what we have now.
I would add, as far as the marker goes, we do make the blocks smaller. I'm actually go ahead and maybe make the size of the width of the two sort of the two pictures in the middle, make them the same, but like make the tote box the same way.
And I think shrinking that blue box isn't a bad idea to increase the size overall if possible.
I do have a question on the blue box with the white writing there. Over time, how's that going to weather? Is it going to be a problem for readability, or it's just more of a marker question?
So are you
The
talking?
folks, are we talking about the durability of like the top of the marker itself?
Well, just more worried about
Blue and the white text.
yeah, just more worried about it fading over time and becoming difficult to read. So I just wasn't really sure with the marker over time.
Yeah, I think since Queen's Court we're basically going with the same folks that had the historic sign there manufactured. And I believe, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we asked you guys if there was like a preferred vendor. I think it's how we got in touch with, it's called like Fossil Graphics or something out in New York.
Yeah. We don't prefer any vendor, but that's the one that we've seen the most. So yes, that's surprised to me that we said Fossil. Yes.
Yeah, so I haven't heard any other problems with other markers around town that they've made. Yeah, that's unfortunately the only assurance I can offer.
John raises a good question. We've had this discussion several times in the past, like the early versions of these, of these picture markers were put in maybe 20 years ago or so. Around here, you see them like on the WNOD trail. They last about 10 or 15 years.
10 to 12 is the shelf life.
Yeah, and so we really, I don't know, we still haven't decided exactly where this is going to be, right? But
well, the location, sorry to interrupt, the location you had already approved it back in 2021 with their COA and the location.
Okay, but so is it, I don't know if it's on who's going to be responsible for maintaining it, I guess, whether it's Arlington County or the owner of the
Well,
building?
it would be APA because
Okay.
they have to have a marker there. It has to be, that's part of the site plan condition. So if they don't have a marker and if it's, you can't read it, it's cracked.
It's actually better for historic preservation because we can have our county staff, if it gets to be non-readable, you can go and say, you have to fix it because it's a site plan, whereas the ones that are on Arlington County land, the county has to come up with the money, and that's harder for our staff.
And I'll just add too that some of the county markers that have done that have had like the county blue color with the white text have held up pretty well. And so we are finding though, after about 10 years, we have to start watching how everything is weathering. And so we started to replace some of these early tabletop markers for that reason.
And I think they've improved the manufacture too, since the early ones.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So you feel confident that if this fades, it's actionable to make them replace it?
Well, I think we should be reasonable with when it replaces. So I probably, if it's something where we're hitting the 10-year, 15-year mark, and it's really faded and it's has some issues, then I think that's reasonable for us to request it. Or if it's been damaged or something, there needs to be a marker there. But I think, that does bring up something that I should be focusing on with our site plan conditions, having some type of statement that they will.
Because that's my pet concern. Is
Yeah.
Private markers and their maintenance and long-term durability.
Scott, are you questioning anything that I'm saying about that condition? Does that condition, do you know if it says anything such as continuing to maintain the marker? Can't remember.
That's a good question. I don't know offhand.
I don't want to say something wrong again on this particular.
I mean, I think you can make the case.
I think so.
That's the concern I have about multiple markers, is what I'm asking.
Well, if a marker always needs to be on this site to satisfy that site plan condition, so I think it could be presumed that is an ongoing maintenance for the life of this. Yeah, for the lifetime of this project. So I think going forward, though, that's an excellent point to make sure that any conditions we have in future site plans that reference interpretation also talk about the ongoing maintenance of that interpretation.
I only really just was asking the questions in terms because you have the white text on the contrast there, that it doesn't just fade in a year or two.
So far, it's been okay on other examples.
And that's wonderful.
And Cynthia pointed out to me, I had forgotten, Arlington County has a particular type of blue, so think of like government institutional blue.
Royal blue.
So there will be, so that's something that I will need to let the team know so that we can make sure that it's standard. We just need to let them know what that is before it gets produced. So that might look a little bit grayer, a little bit lighter.
That's actually another question I have too. Is that blue? Is it lighter than this blue? Like a lot lighter, or I'm sorry to go on colors again. I feel like I do this every
It's sort of like on the panel on the wall.
Okay.
That's awfully bright, but
It's on all the trucks. It's
a deeper blue color.
sky blue.
Okay, but I mean the white on the blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna be quiet about colors.
Is there?
Do you want me to mention mine?
Yes, yeah, actually.
Okay, so in the blue box, staff had the suggestion, rather than having the long title, just calling it known burials, and then having the list of the people seems a little less wordy. And then in the middle photograph showing the Sunday school class, we need to add a reference to Arlington Public Library after the Center for Local History, because that's their usual byline. So we'd like to be consistent. On the 1881 box, that is the only one that references current tense. All the other ones are past tense. So we would recommend saying that Ann Ball passed away and including Francis Dyer's last name. And then rather than repeating burial ground at the very end of that phrase, just saying is the last known person to be buried here, because we're obviously talking about the burial ground. And then in 1906, instead of introducing a new word of plot to mention the burial ground, just say burial ground, because that's how we're referring to it elsewhere. And then under 2017, I think it's important to acknowledge that the Arlington County Board that designated and created the district. And I agree with all of Jerry's suggestions as well.
You know, the Arlington County Board does act for Arlington County. They're the governing body, so don't really.
True.
So all the other things I thought were great suggestions. That one, unless the county board for political reasons likes to get the credit.
We'll defer to the applicant to decide.
This is a real minor thing, and I honestly don't care, but when I first read this, the 1923 box about replace the 1906 building, reading the 1906 entry, nothing about that actually personally told me that the conveyance meant they actually built a church in 1906. Now, if people think it's clear as is, I'm fine with that. But that was not a natural, logical follow-on for me.
Could we say for establishment of a church building on this site?
I mean, it's fine with me. I
Is that
just,
redundant?
Or establishment and construction of a church.
I would say construction, because establishment, I think, could, I don't know. whether
Probably existed
The church
before.
is
Probably
is the
existed.
congregation as well as a building.
Construction.
I don't know where the
Construction.
congregation.
That's a good point.
I have a really minor thing. So with all of the names, they all say blank of whatever except for and Ball. So it should probably say wife of Robert Ball Sr. Like it votes for.
Oh, good point, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And then they'll all match.
Yeah, in fact, Mary Ball says wife of James T. Ball, and then this one says Robert Ball Sr.'s wife, so you should make those consistent. You say wife of, son of, daughter of.
Anything else? Questions or comments?
Just remember, Francis Dyer was a man, not a woman. His name was not spelled Francis with CES, probably.
Right, identifying him as grandson, I think, clarifies that.
But the name was with an I. That was
We
an
can double
engraved
check the
error.
spelling.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Byrne.
All right.
That was an error.
That
I
all
just-
makes a motion.
Oh, hi,
want to-
Heather. Sorry.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that photographs of each headstone are available online. And so the public will be able to see them, just not if they visit the site.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Heather. Yeah, the design guidelines do have photographs of each of the markers, and it also gives the inscription of each stone. So that is a way to do it, but it just means that if somebody's out there and has, a hard time being able to see the markers, that they would need to know that they could go online to get it. It would require a bit of steps for them to be able to access it.
Have we ever on these markers used QR codes
We have not yet.
No.
to link them to something like that where you'd be able to cover a lot more territory with just a QR code?
We've talked about it as a group, but we
Okay.
haven't done it yet.
I know that there's a lot of hesitation to do it because there's concern that, given 10 years from now will be something else, or what if they don't wear well and you're not able to even access it that way?
Or if the webpage goes away.
Well, I wouldn't rely on it, but it's just, anyway, it's
No,
just
it
a question.
I think as long as these only last 15 years, that we should start putting them on. That's,
I mean, it makes it so easy
yeah, a lot of
deal with things like being able to see the headstones or.
a lot of historical sites have started to put them on.
I will be happy to bring that up to one of our Historic Preservation Fund grantees who's developing the history app, which is also supposed to have, I think, QR codes in some way. A lot of the people who are doing any type of markers in their projects are doing that.
When we did the little Vietnam, didn't one more spoke, I don't know if that marker.
We don't have a marker for that.
But I think
The little Saigon?
we talked about it at one point, and we were gonna put a QR code on that, as I recall.
That was a long ago conversation.
I know.
Oh, they were the little signs in the
placards
windows.
and
It was like the temporary, like,
They
yeah.
were linked to a student project that did oral
Okay, that's
histories
what it was.
and video, and it was, the QR code was linked to the video. They weren't markers, but good memory.
That's what I was asking, was the history here. But it's something to think about. It makes life easier
Sure.
when there's a concern about that.
Anything else for the good of the order? That I'll make a motion. So I move that HLRB approve the Robert Ball Senior Family Burial Ground marker with the caveat that applicants work with staff to address any outstanding text edits and formatting revisions.
I second that.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Fackler?
Yes.
Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Mr. Laporte?
Yes.
Ms. Lawrence?
Excuse me, yes.
Sorry. Mr. Turnbull?
Yes.
Mr. Wenchel?
Yes.
And Mr. Woodruff?
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Great, thank you, Scott, thank you, Heather. Thank you, Ryan, I saw you jump on, thank you too.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys. That will move next to the site plan marker review for courthouse landmark project.
So we all saw this last month as well, and I think maybe the month before that, Kim, I'm losing track. But Kim is here from Traceries, and they have made a lot of edits. We've cut down a lot of text, and we've tried to focus on very particular photographs that we think, you know, as much as I think we all like to see maps, we like to see all the different things, you know, a marker sometimes can have everything. So we kind of narrowed that down as well, and we tried to kind of focus what is the message more. I know that Joan Lawrence has provided us a couple of edits, and I think that those actually are really good edits, and I shared that with Kim as well. And I think we have a couple edits that we can suggest too, based on that, kind of building on that. So I think we don't have any public speakers. We have no public speakers for this, so it's really kind of up to everybody. My suggestion is we start with what's on the screen, the First Federal Savings and Loan Building, and see if anybody has any suggestions. Maybe we could. I can see if I can. We'll pull up Joan's edits to this one, and so you can see what she's proposed.
Just, I had a little time today, procrastinating, getting started on a work thing, so. I like the layout, I think the layout's much improved, but since I've always been a significant opponent of facadectomies, and this is a project I did not support at all. I wanted to make sure that the part dealing with the removal of the facade was a lot clearer than it was presented. And I have to confess that I had never heard of architectural facadism.
I had to find it in Google.
I did look it up, and I guess it sort of fits here, but anyway, I just felt that there needed to be more clarity to exactly what was done. So I rewrote it.
So this, so this is showing the, it disappeared. What happened? It's because I enabled it. Hold on, I'm gonna stop it and I'll bring it back.
Sometimes it moves too fast.
And I'm certainly open to other suggestions and changes as well.
So the top part is Joan's track changes and the bottom is the new version. So what I can do.
Basically, that's what I have to do in the UK patent office.
So if there's any proposals to this edit, and this is the first paragraph.
And then I just clean copy on the bottom.
So staff did have one suggestion for the paragraph. So it would be the first, second, the third sentence mentions international style twice. So our suggestion to simplify it would be something like,
I thought I deleted.
these facades will return to their original configuration and reflect their original appearance, because we've already established that it's
This is the
international
first federal
style.
one.
Yeah, first federal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the
that's right.
federal, okay. I thought we were talking about the investment building.
So this is the first federal, that was what we had up on the screen, was the first federal savings and loan. This is your second section of the page.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I thought I had deleted that second occurrence.
Because we've already established it as international style in one of the headings, and then also in the first sentence of the paragraph, so it seemed redundant to keep mentioning. the
Absolutely,
architectural style.
yeah, fully agree.
So I think the paragraph is fine, it's good, but it doesn't, the title makes me think that what that paragraph is going to do is to explain to me what architectural facadism is.
I think it's facadism.
Facadism, right? I hadn't seen it before either.
Oh, that's an interesting.
So, but it says architectural facadism, and then I expect to be told what that is.
I think that's what the paragraph does. It tells you what happened.
Well, it tells what happened to this one building, but it assumes that,
You can say at the start of the second sentence, following the principles of architectural facadism, the historic facades on the north and the west.
yeah, that would
I
do it.
think that, yeah, I think that's a valid point.
I don't know that they're technically principles of architecture.
Yeah, or then somebody would have to look it up. Or the common
You
practice.
mentioned those.
I think common practice.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Great, that's more general.
There's got to be some description, some,
Agree.
What about the unfortunate practice?
The unfortunate practice of architectural facadectomy.
I think probably everybody in this room would agree with
What
it.
did they call it, a facadotomy? I think.
Facadectomy.
Facadectomy, yeah.
Actually, no, I thought it almost like a lobotomy, but a facadotomy. It was just, I did find that reference. I thought it was very unfortunate.
Also, when you talk about international style, usually you capitalize both those words as capital I, capital S, right?
Yeah, I was following what it was done before.
Yeah, but
So what, I see you scribbling there. What did you actually say
So I
about
was-
facadism?
Following the practice of facadism, comma, the historic facades on the north and west elevations were carefully dismantled, cleaned, repaired, and reinstalled on the new building.
But you may want to say the historic facades. I feel like we say facades a lot than in 2 words, but maybe I'm just being picky.
I just think it's obvious from the paragraph what it is. I don't see why.
What do others think?
Or say the historic elevations on to the north and west were carefully dismantled.
I think that works.
I think if you take the title off and incorporate somewhere in there, architectural facadism.
I just looked up the word, I've heard the word before, but I've just looked it up in Merriam-Webster dictionary and they say it's not a word. So it's-
Facadism?
Facadism.
They don't recognize it. but-
Well, there's a whole, I found a whole lot of references to it.
I think the heading is fine as long as it's clearly explained in the text. I don't think that's an issue.
And I feel like the sentence that we're all reworking, I kind of agree with Dick. I think that it tells you what it is. And not only that, I mean, most people will then read this, look up and see, as well as the markers showing the photographs. So I think if you have all of those kind of supporting each other, I think people will get a sense of what it is.
Yeah, I also think if you try and explain it, it lends it a degree of, historic preservation legitimacy, which it shouldn't have.
I don't think it is either,
Well, and considering how often we do it here, the longer you live in Arlington, the more you're gonna get used to this.
And I've been opposed to everything.
Yeah.
Might as well learn what it means.
I kind of like having the headers because I'm not an architectural person. I like the organization of this marker a lot. So I actually kind of like having it because it does explain it to me. I thought the explanatory text was actually pretty good. So at the risk of coming out saying that.
We're gonna use use the word facade so much, we should probably add the little tail on the C.
Oh.
To each spelling, the city, I think it's Cedila is the name for
Some
it.
people use it, some people don't. That's a you decision.
My daughter's taking French and will say the C with the little S.
Yeah, I think it's called a
See what it
Cedila.
Yeah, I'll highlight that and see what's possible.
Could you show the actual design again?
Yep.
Please? We saw that. So I did notice, speaking of the word facade, there is a typo in the bottom right corner, first sentence, though sensitive to the facades.
Oh, okay. Well, that whole thing is changing, right?
Yeah, I correct.
Yeah, that
Oh, that
entire,
whole section, yeah,
that
yeah.
entire column is, yeah.
Okay, and that makes me think of one more thing though. You can see it in that paragraph that's there in the corner. A lot of like the kerning and the spacing between the words, just
Yes.
some lines have a lot of space and others don't.
So Lauren and I discussed this, and it's up to you guys whether or not you want to remove the justification of the columns. But that's what's controlling that, is that there are spaces, there are characters there, but the way that the paragraph is fitting into the text box, that's the way it can fit. And I had to mess a lot with the font in order to get all three just the right amount of font and spacing between even the lines to get them all three to fit within the afforded length. And so I agree, it looks weird. So I'm happy to remove the justification. I noticed that the signs earlier didn't have justified text. That sometimes that's a personal choice. Some people hate it and some people love it.
And is the font bolded or not bolded?
No, that's just the font, but I can make it light if you would like. And if Arlington has I know this isn't technically an Arlington County sign, but if you have a font that you prefer, I just chose a font that I know meets ADA.
Yeah, actually, the justification of the upper paragraph seems fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's a wider text box, and so therefore it's afforded a little bit more room to move the characters.
Well, it's
But I do think
Yeah.
it would look weird if we had one justified paragraph and then two non-justified paragraphs.
Maybe something we could do, that instead of having it in the two columns then, Kim, maybe we should jump it back to it being stacked. So it's like, yeah, top bottom. Do you think that would help?
I don't know that it would fit with the photos.
I,
We would need to find then a photo that was long that was vertical instead of horizontal.
I like the photo.
Yeah, I agree that the spacing looks weird. I don't, justification, I think it would be better to go, sometimes you can turn on the hyphenation too, and that will solve the problem, but a lot of people don't like that either.
Yeah, I have hyphenation turned off, so it will never cut a word
Yeah.
off.
Sometimes you could kind of selectively put hyphenated words
Yeah.
in there
Can you
and
play
it'll
with
fix
that a
it.
little, Ken?
Okay, we can play with that some more.
Maybe there won't be as many hyphens as we think there will be.
I didn't look at that with the shortened text, so I can look at that.
I fully appreciate what you're dealing with there, because especially like that last one there, it's hard to read that those sentences.
It really is, yeah.
I'm sure that's probably like 4 hours of work right there, so I appreciate what you're doing.
Looks so much better.
This is
And
great.
I did want to note that one of the board members, I don't remember who it was, asked me to strengthen the first federal savings and loan on the building. And we decided as a company that we were not going to alter a newspaper ad because that is not what was there. So we just added like a look box here, which this ad is like a full page of a newspaper, and this was at the bottom, so I just put it on the top. So I just want to make that note that I didn't adjust the ad, but
That looks a lot better. That does it right.
Should we add maybe then like a little bit of like a shadow box or something?
I can add an outline to it.
Yeah, maybe that might be just one suggestion so that it doesn't blend.
So just based on the comments that many of us have made about our concern about the facade being considered.
I don't want us to solve that problem.
I
don't want us
know,
to
but
solve
I
that.
think in truth, what we probably should say is First Federal was one of the few remaining international style commercial buildings in Arlington. Its historic facades on the north and west elevation were carefully dismantled and saved. Because the truth is, the building is gone.
Yeah, it is.
The only thing that remains of the building are those two
What's
facades.
left of the facade.
And that's fair. I mean, that's what was decided and how it's done. But I don't think we can pretend that we've saved the building.
Yeah, that's a great.
And the same is true for the other one. You know, the historic, you know, the historic facade was not the building.
In fact, on the investment building, it's only one facade, the other facade is
Correct.
fake.
That's
Okay?
correct.
So,
And this gets at our,
I mean, it's new.
it subtly gets at our unhappiness that the building was not.
I can deal with subtle.
Subtle.
I can deal with subtle.
Okay, any other comments on this particular marker?
I could have written this much more stridently. It's not historic
I think you
preservation.
did a marvelous job of containing.
You did do a good, you did.
Very diplomatic.
I really like the way the two pictures
Yeah, a
look
lot.
now.
So we're gonna go to the investment building one, and I can bring up Jen's text again, so bear with me. As we do a lot of sharing, jumbling. Okay, so same thing, track changes at the top, and then the kind of more finalized version at the bottom. And
And my only question, I didn't look it up, is inventorying a word. I was trying not to add another word to it.
Cataloging?
Cataloging, actually, I like that.
why am I not seeing? Oh, I'm seeing.
Oh, it is the third line down, required cataloging.
Inventorying is kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, I didn't like it, but I figured somebody would come up with something better.
I think to be parallel with the other one, we should start with the same sentence and say the investment building was one of the few remaining international style commercial buildings in Arlington.
But is there
Because not
room-
everybody is
Is
going
there
to read.
room for it? I was really trying to watch.
Yeah, I
I was trying to watch the number of words,
Yeah.
and I actually added a few. I think there's 7 more words in my proposed paragraph.
So the nice thing about this sign layout is that we have more images, so I have more room to manipulate the size of those images. If you look at the sign, there's a, room to make this box smaller, so more words in that paragraph shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, well, I was
And
trying
I
to.
also, on this one, we're not on the sign, but I didn't bold the titles because I kind of had them as subheadings, but, so I wanted you to see both those and which one you prefer.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
I was gonna get to that. I actually
Pretty much
like what you did.
Adjustment, the First Federal one first to know what facadism is, and to go around the corner.
See, I think they have to stand independently.
I think you're
not
right.
everyone reads both. of
Yeah, I
them.
think you're right, and I was trying to keep the number of words similar to what was there, but if there's some flexibility, then.
This one has much more flexibility than the
Okay,
other signs.
that's great. I would have done it a little bit differently knowing that.
So can you read that back down?
It'll be, so it's up on the screen. The investment building was one of the few remaining international style commercial buildings in Arlington. The historic facade.
Its historic facade was moved to the
Yeah.
corner of 15th
And
Street.
again, we can say in accordance with the practices of our
Yeah, we
architectural.
don't say architectural
Right,
facades up
yeah.
here.
Following
Whoa,
the.
whoa, I need y'all to slow down. Sorry.
Yeah.
So which sentence?
Its historic facade, and then I
So I
lost it.
Was moved to the corner of 15th Street North.
Right, but if you just start out following following the practice and principles of
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
you
so
said.
following the practice of facadism,
architectural facadism.
Which is architectural.
Architectural.
It's historic facade, so
That's still-
Wrench.
Especially since you told us about the dictionary, I'm kind of uncomfortable
No,
with
actually,
using
I
the
looked at
word.
the Oxford Dictionary, but I looked online and there's a bunch of things
Okay.
about architectural, I think.
Yeah, there are a bunch of
Joan
architectural
said
terms
she
that
did,
don't-
so it's,
that aren't defined.
even though the dictionaries haven't accepted it yet, it's a real thing.
Following the practice of architectural facade
Yeah, my first thought is that,
historic
then realized that, yes, it is.
was moved to the corner of 15th Street North and North Birdhouse Road in 2023.
Correct.
Okay. Now I can take edits now, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get mad.
No, that's okay, we were.
I hate to
I
mess
just
it up, but-
fast there.
Architectural facade is more being defined by this sentence than just moving the location of the building, right? Am I just confusing things? So say like, its historic facade was moved to the corner of North Grassy Road. Following the practices of architectural facadism, a treatment plan was developed to document.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah, that's a
better.
good,
I like that
that's a good point.
I take back my comment. Wikipedia has an entry for just facadism without the word architectural, so I think it's a thing without, the other thing I was looking at called it architectural facadism, but I think they use it, just the word facadism, and it's understood that it refers to architectural facades. But
Yeah, it's just.
I would keep it in the title, but in the text, I don't think you need it if you don't want to put it, if it makes too many words.
Yeah.
I'm a big.
We may practice singular. I think,
Yeah.
when you pluralize it, it makes it sound more legitimate.
How do you
Some people
feel?
think it is.
Change it for the other one too. Okay. Practice.
And we're using two different tenses. Does that bother anyone?
We're striking. Yes.
Okay, so I can just change this one to be I think the tense on First Federal Savings and Loan makes more sense than this.
Are we, sorry, so we're striking, are we taking that out of the title too?
No.
We're gonna keep architectural facadism, but we're just gonna reference facadism
In the.
in the text.
Yes.
Got
Architectural dashes.
it. A lot of people will probably read it like that.
Probably will.
They don't read, yeah, they glance at it, that's gonna happen, right?
That's why the tail is needed on the seat.
Yeah.
Make it a little more obvious.
Could I just make two comments on the actual design of this one? Kim, I think it works so much better zooming in onto this specific block for the Sanborn map because it really pops and you can see the buildings. And then my only comment has to do with the bottom picture. Thank you for finding one that showed the whole block.
But that text needs to go down, yep.
Well, oh yeah, I didn't notice that. But do we need to blur that license plate on the corner car?
Oh, I certainly can. That's not something I ever thought about before. I didn't even notice it.
Or you could like cut that car
Or cut
out.
the
Well,
car
I'm
out
thinking
and
if you
then
crop,
crop
the
it,
image
Crop
will
it
become
out,
more
have
dramatic
more
if you
room.
crop,
Yeah, crop.
like the inch off of the side and give you more room for your text.
Very good.
Just crop it down to the building itself. I mean, the brick building and the.
Well,
But we're
no,
showing
it was
you
requested that we go all the way to the corner so that we have lawyers around.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
I can crop
So
it.
you
It's still losing
Yeah.
color.
Yeah,
Just beyond the bayou sign.
yeah.
I just wanted to comment about the subheaders. I actually kind of like that better because it kind of explains it, but I don't know how others feel. And then I did want to compliment you. I noticed you used an accessible font there. So
I'm gonna second John's comment about the sub headers.
I'll just make one comment. This was with the last one too. When I was, doing a lot of writing professionally, even in college, there was a book called Strunk and White called The Elements of Style.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things and I crossed this out so many times in editing people's work prior to, you're always supposed to put before because prior to is ostentatious. And so I would just, underneath, I would much prefer if we say before the new development.
Or removal and transport.
No, but I'm talking about the
caption.
building rather than put before. I mean, just as a matter of style, prior to is considered for
In the caption.
It's also in the text.
I would take it out I would not use prior to at all in any of this stuff, but I feel like I'm, really getting down to the nitty gritty. I think we should work for good English style on these things.
My proposal did not have any prior twos on it.
I thought it did.
Where is the prior to in the text? Is it on?
The text is the original location.
Oh, okay,
Prior
I'm
to
sorry,
removal
sorry,
and
that's another one I didn't.
Oh, I don't know how.
You know, Jerry,
I
prior
stand
to you
corrected.
saying that, I thought it was okay.
I've thought that so many times over the years, and I usually don't say it because it seems to be so
Black last.
anyway, but it.
No, it was white. I just, I whitened it. And it really helps because I just zoomed in on the block. I was like, we don't need the courthouse in this one. So that was before there was the intention to show it with the courthouse, but
So if we're anti the word prior, should we also take that out of the caption at the bottom?
Yeah,
that's what it was. He was talking about.
Both places.
I'm late to this.
You're
You're doing a lot.
Okay, anything else on this one? No, one more.
And I do want to discuss location. Because I know we settled on them, but I walked the square and I don't think the locations we picked for Lawyers Row and investment would work anymore.
Can we do that after we talk about?
Yep, I just wanted to.
No, thank you for bringing that up. We will definitely focus. Joan did a
Right,
great
here's the
job
prior to.
providing edits for the two, but she was tardy with giving us edits.
I was just, it was facadism that I was focused on. I had to get back to work. It starts out prior to the late 1890s. I like this one, actually. I thought there was typos somewhere, but I didn't maybe know.
The black and white photo has the funky spacing in the caption compared to the others.
It also seems like we're having a little bit of the justification thing again.
That's what's the problem
Yeah.
with that.
I think we'll just have to play and see how it looks again, Kim, with making it left.
I know it's going to be easier to read when it's larger.
And then Jerry, I'm assuming the first sentence should be before the late 1890s.
Yeah, I think that's almost a universal rule, although I think I've made some exceptions in the past. And this may be close to an exception.
I'm shocked.
And I did confirm, we did a little bit more digging as to in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Courthouse, the tower was built in 1959.
Okay.
Then in 1960, they tore down the historic one, the pink one in the middle. And then in 1961, they built the new courthouse in front of the tower. And that's also been demolished.
It's much clearer now, the way you've rewritten it. Can I think that, this is just an idea, if the Sanborn map could be next to the Lawyers Row, I think it would be easier to understand that they are the same thing, right?
So I think this came up last time. The only reason, well, I guess we chose these two pictures side by side because one is of the row from the back and one is the row from the front. And the suggestion last time was that that would be more understandable if they were next to each other. Because that, I think originally the Sanborn map was in the upper right and the upper right was next to the Lawyers Row. And the suggestion was flip them so that the two mirrored photos, if someone's really looking at it, they can see the gabled roof and the gabled roof. Oh, we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's,
Like the photo on the left is of the rear Lawyers Row looking at the old courthouse. And then the photo on the right is from the courthouse looking at Lawyers Row. And there are north symbols on there. I don't know that that would be helpful to a lot of people, but we've put them on all of the photos.
I see that. I think I miss it.
I missed it.
Yeah, I can make them bigger.
they're
I don't think we
right
can
in the
bigger.
lower right
Maybe
corner.
they'll-
My suggestion would be to do like a white circle around it, kind of
Yeah.
transparent. Okay.
Particularly on that like top right.
Color photo,
Yeah,
yeah.
color photo,
It's a small thing on the text. Is the Lawyers Row, is that a different size than the one in corporate?
It is.
Okay.
It has, and this is, maybe we can cut text from the Lawyers Row, but this is, I think, 38, and this is 32.
So it is a little bit smaller, but that was to make it fit. And it also has to do with, you know, this line is hitting this, and this line is hitting this, and this line is hitting this. And that. So like.
Can I make a suggestion? Could you have the title on the first column be courthouse neighborhood and lawyers row? And then that way in the third column, maybe you don't even need the lawyers row heading, and that might give you extra space to make everything bigger.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with that?
I mean, it's one of those things, it's like, it's not a huge difference. I had to look a little bit closer, but it is pretty noticeable.
And it would be more noticeable, but it's like.
Yeah, and I hate to keep asking these things because I know these things probably take a long time to correct.
Yes, and then that way this font size can increase to match the left.
Any other comments? No, we can talk about the location.
Could you put, having the little white dot numbers is really helpful.
Yes.
Could you put the little white dot numbers on the black and white photograph so that they match it, it matches the buildings? And then it really orients you to the fact that you're seeing the back of the same building.
They're not
all there.
Yeah.
all there.
I know they're not all there, but the
Okay.
ones that are there
Yeah.
would be, then it would be clear as to why you put it there.
One question I had is that it's, it says the aerial view facing west showing the 1898 courthouse and lawyers row buildings. It might be helpful to have the date it was taken.
Yeah.
the year
Yeah, I was
it was
thinking about
taken.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because with the cars, you know, it's not.
I think this is an undated photo. Which is why we didn't
So
include
who
it.
wants to flex there?
I was gonna say, I could say mid-20th century. It looks like it's maybe the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, you can tell from the
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
Just say circa
Early 60s.
Okay.
1960s.
I mean, if you look at the Sanborn map, those buildings that are shown there are still extant on that map, but they're gone by the time you get to 83. One or two of them.
Well, it has to be,
Yeah.
the black and white one has to be before 1960, because
Right.
that's when
Yeah.
the tower was.
Right.
Yeah, the tower was
Towers
up,
and all.
1959.
Yeah, so I think that's probably, that's okay. People can read the marker and figure it out.
I see the directional arrows in the corners
Uh-huh.
for the one in the corner. Could we just make it white instead of black? so you can actually see it?
Yeah, there was, someone suggested putting a white circle around that, so, and I'll change that one to white.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so receptive to these comments, Ken. These have come a long
Of
way.
course.
They really are so much, they're really good now.
Okay, so
Locations.
there was a suggestion for First Federal Savings and Loan to put it over here, and I do think that would work. There is, you know, the start of the crosswalk here, and then there's a big sign that I didn't read. But so, you know, people aren't gonna be walking right here, so I was thinking we could angle this here to face the canted corner, so people stop at the crosswalk and look and read.
Have any conversations happened with our DES team? Okay, so that's something I'll have to just kind of let everyone know. I want to make sure that we confirm with them exactly where they can be in the public right of way. And so that also is going to probably dictate.
Okay.
So I think if we have a general idea, you can give us guidance, and then I'll be able to talk to, I'm actually talking to somebody tomorrow about the other marker that had to go away for a little while. That was related to, I think, the Arlington line. That, anyways, I need to find it. I have a lot of markers we need to find locations for. So, anyways,
And then this one has a brand new planter with its little fence, and there's just, you can't stand in it and read a sign facing the building. But across the street is where the parking lot is, there's just a huge strip of grass all the way down until you get to the curb cut for the parking lot. So I was thinking we could put, you know, investment building here, facing investment building, and then maybe turn Lawyers Row facing where Lawyers Row used to be. So it would be like something you walk into. I don't know that they would design it to be nice, but, and I don't know how hard it will be to put something on across the street.
Remember that famous tree is?
But the mother
The mother
tree.
I walk past there every week. I have an appointment, and they really made it a nice walking space now. It's much nicer with that strip of grass, and I think that's an excellent location. It kind of improves the walkability a little bit, makes it.
Yeah,
I really like that idea. I think that grass belongs to Arlington County, so you have to.
Is
it in a municipal lot?
I'll have to confirm. Yeah, but the only thing I'm concerned about, some of the conversation we were having, but the other thing we're gonna mention is, I don't know what's happening with the parking lot in that area.
Yes.
So I think we can all just say this general area, and you can give me your suggestion of where the orientation should be. And then I can, again, have that conversation with DES staff.
And if the Lawyers Row one can't go facing, you know, this way, we could just adjust the language to say the historic courthouse sat behind you. Like literally, it would be behind you, and Lawyers Row on the other side of X Street. You know, we could make language adjustments.
Okay.
So that person reading, like when we say, oh, behind, oh, wow, that used to be the courthouse, okay.
I really like the idea of the sign being across, you know, you get a
much
view.
better.
The same for First Federal. I mean, if the sign can be good so that you're looking at the whole facade, I think that would strengthen it.
Much more successful.
So we'll.
It's only a facade.
It's only a. So that's a good segue to something that we were gonna look a little bit further into, because we were really asking a lot of this applicant to go above and beyond with markers on this project. And one of them was the idea of a ghost sign kind of marker, where it's some type of acrylic sign that's clear, it has an outline of a building that was once there, and to give somebody perspective. And Kim's done a lot of digging, and I will take any of your research so that I can have it on file. But I do, after Kim and I talked a little bit more, it really does seem that that type of marker is better for when there's a ruin and when there is a lot of open space. And we don't really have that here. I think that there could be a project in the future where we could do something like that, especially maybe with DPR. We got an idea of how much the cost would be. It is a lot more than a traditional marker, but it also is very impactful when I think someone was to see something like that. But I think the thing that I'm nervous about is having to figure out exactly the vantage point that someone would have to be at, because you can't just go straight looking at it. You have to kind of like back up and figure out exactly where it is to align it. And I don't think we have enough space in this area here to do that. So I appreciate Kim looking into it more and humoring me and my idea of us trying to do something like that. I think that, but I don't think that it's right for this case, because I think we're in too much of an urban environment to do it. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up to everybody and hope that everyone's comfortable with us. Maybe, hopefully we'll see it in a future project. Maybe Kim will be the consultant.
I think that makes sense, because you need a ruin, the outline of the ruin to actually, you know, sort of imagine what it looked like before it was ruined. Like you could do it, you could project it on that dirt pile.
Yeah. Moving on, Mr. Chair.
But I like the idea of us getting more creative with markers. I think that it will be helpful for me to also know what could be possible and what would be the right project.
So like the ideas we're coming up with for Joyce.
Like, yes, that's true.
I was gonna say,
I'm
with
excited.
that. Ghost marker for Joyce.
So
And Other facade activity.
Yeah, facade activity, yeah.
So, yeah, that was it. So we have, Kim, I can share with you the edits that we have to the marker. And there'll be a couple things we'll have to play with, but I hope everyone feels very confident with how far these markers have gotten to. And I think that's all thanks for Kim being so flexible with our suggestions, as well as so much energy into wordsmithing and working it. I feel that we have enough direction to basically get this project going and not have to come back. And I just want to see if everyone's comfortable with that.
So I'll make a copy and go from there. So I move that the HALRB be approved with 3 interpretive markers for the courthouse landmark project as submitted, including any outstanding minor text or design edits.
Second.
Okay.
Call roll.
Maybe we should say with location to be decided in consultation with the county or something like that. Yeah, then we've documented that we.
No, I think that's good,
Yeah.
so we've covered it.
And the county's outside the staff as well. So.
With location to be decided.
Provided that it's in the county somewhere.
Arlington.
I don't think our neighbors are gonna want me to say it. Guess what? We're putting a marker in here.
Okay, so you still, you approve that amendment? Okay. Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Fackler,
Yes.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Turnbull,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
look
you.
forward to doing this again in a couple months.
John, Arlington Blues.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes when it prints out.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, the shade does.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll move on next to the chair's report. The only thing to report really today is that that we need to do our nominating committee for 2024 HLRB. So I guess the nominating committee is a pretty informal position, but essentially the committee picks nominees for next year's leadership. So if anybody wants to be on the committee, now or later. Anyone wants to jump up
We
right
should
now?
decide now.
I'll be on it,
Okay.
if I'm not the only person.
Anybody else like to volunteer?
Did it last year. Share the experience.
I can do it.
A few minutes at
How
a
many people
time.
do you need?
I'd say 2 to
Two,
3,
yeah,
no more.
Tuesday.
3 is good because that way if there's a tie, the majority rules.
Are you interested, Greg?
It takes about 5
It's just
minutes.
like 5
Learning,
minutes.
but yeah, okay, sure. 5 minutes I've got.
It's not a heavy lift.
Is there any rule about people serving over and over again, or?
Nope.
Thank God.
There is a rule that you're not allowed to quit until you get a successor, though.
You knew that rule, right?
I did not. I did not know that rule. I better cool my head.
That's not a rule, it should be.
So then just to confirm, our nominating committee then is Mr. Woodruff, Mr. Turnbull, and Mr. Hanley. So then your task, if you choose to accept it, between now and the next meeting on December 20th, to present the slate of officers for chair and vice chair, and then the commission will vote on that next month. Okay?
Yeah, and I think that's my last item today. I mean, I'll save the exciting stuff for the staff to announce. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I'm really excited to announce that on Saturday, the county board approved the update to our historic and cultural resources plan.
Yay.
So we are super excited. It was a long Saturday, but there was a lot of positive feedback from the county board members, the county manager's office throughout that process, and they've been helping us champion it. So they're very excited about the new direction for historic preservation. Want to thank our chair, Mr. Davis, for spending a good portion of Saturday afternoon here at the county building with us and giving some remarks on behalf of the HLRB. The county did issue an official press release yesterday, so if you haven't seen it, it is online on the county website. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you should have gotten that in your inbox already. And we are working with our consultant on just the final last little edits to the plan. And so we hope to have that within the next couple of weeks, and we will post it on the county website and let everyone know when the final version is available online. So thank you all for your support throughout that process. It's kind of hard to believe that we finally finished it, but we're really excited about what's to come.
Well, thanks to all of you for all the many hours put into all aspects of that.
Appreciate that.
And I hope you're very proud of the product. It's
We are.
really a model for such a plan.
Thank you.
A model for our neighbors.
Yeah, we're gonna be
By
talking
that, you
about
mean
it a lot.
Alexandria?
Sorry.
By that neighbors, you mean Alexandria or Fairfax?
One of the things I've just noticed, and I've said it many times, I just think that there's not many historic preservation master plans being updated. And so I really want to tell our colleagues in the field, look at it, see what we did, and use it as a model. So I hope we continue talking about it for the next
And
year.
not just the end product, but the process.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Does Fairfax County have one?
I don't know. I really don't know.
They have a guiding document. It's not quite the same as the structure that we have. I know they do have some type of cultural resources guidance, but it's not quite the same as how we do it here. That's about all I can speak to it on
I didn't think we had anything.
Well, I also want to congratulate you on it. I know it was a lot of hard work. And just in reading it, I think it's a pretty strong document in terms of trying to accomplish the things we do. Put in place sort of the legal obligations that the board will encounter when we have,
that. Going forward.
controversial questions about historic preservation. I think it would be really helpful.
And I think the level of engagement too that's expected of these big multi-year planning studies is so different now than it was in the early 2000s when we started to create the original plan. There was like almost no public engagement back then. And now that is one of the main driving forces, and all of the wonderful outreach and things that Michael had planned, and all of the online feedback we got, and the pop-ups, and just the community comments that we received, that I think really helped guide what ended up in that final document. Next, I'm going to ask Michael to talk about the questionnaire.
Just a reminder to fill it out if you haven't already. We now have 5 people who filled it out. Serena developed it, and it's anonymous, so it would be really helpful to us to make sure that we're enriching your experience as a member of the commission. So we really hope to get your honest feedback and analyze it, and then come up with ways to maybe implement some of it.
And that should take maybe 5 minutes of your time.
Maybe.
It's not a complicated questionnaire.
And the link is in the email that I sent for this month. I'll send it again probably next month.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The link is in this the email I sent for this
The quorum
meeting.
email.
Yeah. But I'll send it again for December's meeting email reminder.
And then the last update we had, you'll notice that we are one less woman on this end of the table with the recent departure of Serena Bollinger. And for those of you who were not here last month, that would have been your last chance to see her in action. But we just wanted to wish her well and thank her for her 5.5 years of service.
Is that long, really?
Yes.
So I didn't know Serena except for these few months that I've been on the board. But she was really a huge help to a new member coming on board. I wonder if it would be appropriate, and if the other board members would agree, that it would be a nice thing to send a letter from the board that expresses its appreciation and for the quality of work that she did and for her time, and sort of a general letter, but pretty specific. And you were so important in these projects, and we really appreciated all of your support and wisdom and expertise or something. I just think it would be a nice thing for her to have. And I think from my point of view, it's sincere. She really did. And this all happened so quickly, I don't think we had an opportunity at a board meeting to minute it. I mean, if we'd been able to put it in the minutes, it would have been a different story. I mean, we could just do that. It's just minute this as let people make remarks. But it'd be nice to have something signed by,
I think that's a wonderful.
Chairman Davis to, be.
And if that's something that the commission would like to do and work on, I can guarantee that it gets to her.
Okay,
We have to send her that. I think that would mean a lot to her.
Would anybody prefer just to minute this?
No, I
Does that
think
seem more appropriate?
the letter.
I think the letter's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. Both of it, in a way. Thanks, Greg. That's good.
That's a great suggestion. So then you notice that Michael has taken on a new role at the meeting, and so she is now serving in an acting capacity in Serena's position as the associate planner while we're in the process of doing that recruitment. So please give us all a little patience and grace like you always do as we transition to being a team of 3, hopefully only temporarily. But welcome in your new responsibilities. And that was all the updates that we had.
Do you have an open position now, or can you fill this Serena slot, I guess is my question.
We are going to be filling it. The recruitment is active.
Tried, I know you can't replace her, but at least
We
I'm
need
ready to fill the
we
slot.
need at least 4 bodies, preferably 4. We're gonna get fully staffed again.
You're not losing the position.
No, we are not.
In fact, if you all weren't watching the hearing, when the county board was hearing the plan, it was very eye-opening to kind of see the direction of the questions that they had and how it really felt like they recognized our good work, but that in order for the plan to be successful, we need the resources and the staff. And I think
That's good.
to me, it sounded like it. So let's just hope that, tax revenue goes up.
Yeah.
Whereas tax payments
Nice
are.
words.
I don't know how it could.
Tax payments are going up, that's for sure.
Can I ask a question about the Langston Boulevard plan? So I know it got adopted.
That got
and,
approved as well.
Couple things about it. One, Maywood Cherrydale was left out because of the pre-existing plan, but I've sort of heard through the grapevine there's I guess it's going to be under a new plan to be undertaken specifically for an updated that plan.
I haven't been a part of this conversation, but it did seem like there was lots of reference by the county board and staff that they weren't going to just let that those just kind of are done and on their own, that they will be trying to figure out how there'll be improvements that could happen within those plans, those individual plans. So but I think they were saying that to be like, we're not just gonna, we're gonna make sure that it grows along with what the goals are that the Plan Langston Boulevard study is giving for the corridor. It kind of sounded like they wanted to make sure that they do speak to each other, but
the Cherrydale plan is about 30 years old.
Yeah, I don't know where it is in the planning division's work plans for updating those things.
Okay.
We might be able to find out on our end and report back, but I don't know
I thought
where
it
that
been
falls.
updated within the last 20 years.
I don't think it's
I
on.
thought
I think
it
it's
was
from
in
the
the
90s. I think it's from the
1990s.
90s because
the 90s,
I've seen it shown to me like a printout when looking at projects.
It's pretty dated.
You can tell just by looking at it, it's like typewritten.
Yeah, it's pretty old
Is it
school.
videographed?
But I wouldn't be surprised if those end up being maybe the next phase to what's happening with that.
And do you know, the board made some amendments, and did they kick up the height of the buildings in Line Village? I couldn't tell from the press release that they had specifically.
Well, they went chapter by chapter.
Yeah,
for
chapter by
text
chapter,
amendments.
yeah. I don't remember the Lion Village. There was they talked about the height that was maybe further out west, I think. I can't recall that.
I don't think it was under discussion in the changes that they had per chapter.
I
They
don't
went
think so either.
chapter to chapter.
They went blow by blow, yeah.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
it showed up in the newspapers as one of the, or the newsletter as one of the most controversial parts of it. Is that, around the shopping center and all of that?
It may well have been, but I know there was a discussion during the development of the report about whether it was going to be 12 or 15 stories. I think can't remember what the staff wound up, I think it was 12 to 15 feet or something like that. And then I thought, my reading of the board's action was that they just kicked it up to 15. And I could be wrong.
I don't know offhand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me know.
Anything else for good of the order? If not,
Can I ask a quick question? Did we hear anything more about that church redevelopment in Lyon Village?
So, no.
Because that's a big question having to do with zoning and historic district.
I don't think I really have anything I can share.
Okay, that's fine.
But there are still some discussions happening.
Oh.
I think that there
I
is
think there will be more to come.
There'll be more to
Before
come.
long.
I think that there is, when anybody's looking at a project, there's always the question of, can we get what we want based on what is in the existing zoning? Or do we go through any of the special processes that the county has? And I think that the applicant is looking at that process right now with which angle do they want to go on. One will give us, if they end up going with the existing zoning, it's going to take out a lot of our leverage to try and figure out where preservation fits within this project. So
What do you mean by going with existing zoning? They have to go zone it.
They can't, the existing zoning is
R5.
quick churches and single
And
family.
they want to put a 6-story building in there, so it's just, they have to, I mean, that's the application, the way I understand it, is to rezone their property. So.
And that's what they would like to do, and if they want to do that, then they have to go through the special GLUB study process.
Yes.
But I think that I am not studying the planning and the zoning ordinance to all the details that my colleagues are doing, but I think that they are looking at what are all of their possibilities, what are all of their angles they're gonna go off of. I would prefer them to go through the GLUB study process so that we can try and see where preservation can fit within that project.
Why would there be GLUB instead of saying?
Because there's not, I think it's an area where there's not enough policy documents. I'm doing this movement because whenever I look at a map, you always see an outline of
policy.
things.
But it's in the Clarendon plan. No?
It's outside, well, the Clarendon sector plan says that the commercial area is on the other side of the street. Okay, so they would have to redraw the red line, which means that they'd have to amend the GLUB. Well, they wouldn't have to, they could just rezone it. I think there's a question of spot zoning or something.
There's just, sometimes there's always a certain area that when you've got all these different sector plans that say this is the guiding language that we have, there's always an area where it's right in between two sector plans. And so I think this is one of those cases where there's just no kind of flexible guiding language for that area. So we will have hopefully some more information coming. And it is on our radar. It's kind of the most I've gotten.
Before we adjourn, I just want to make sure that we indeed will have an in-person quorum for the next meeting, December 20th. Do folks know that they will be here in town still and able to physically come in this room? Mark is a yes. We need 4 more.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a no.
We have
Yes.
company coming, so.
Who was it?
So Mari and
Question mark.
Yes, on December 20th.
I'm a no.
So you're a no, I think Serena.
I'm a maybe, I'd probably yes. But
Okay, that's helpful. Just don't ignore Michael's quorum check. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to be going on.
I don't think there's any site plans or major,
I
there's
know.
no
I
markers
think
that
it's
I've
the
got.
wind down before.
Yeah, so there's none of this being proposed right now.
I know, I don't know what.
That's it.
All right, anything else? For good of the order? With that, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I think we